Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Department Podcast, the wrestling recap of the Sports Department Podcast, where Justin Valentovic and myself, Stephen Clark, are here to break down everything in wrestling from outside the ring to inside the ring and everything in between. But before we get into all that crazy nonsense, Justin, how you doing today?
Good. Weekend, went back to work for all of 2 days after, the little COVID protocols. So ready to enjoy the weekend. We got some snow possibly coming, so that means some overtime on the books. But it's cold and windy outside, so I'm glad to be inside talking some wrestling.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we're not outside or in the broadcast booths or whatever, the sports games that we're calling the games and stuff during these cold times.
Yeah, February baseball for D3. You gotta love it, but it's brutal and painful and miserable all at the same time. But I'll be more than happy to stay in a warm house or something for right now, talking sports rather than being out on the roof of a press box.
Me too. And do you know where
when it's cold? When it's cold though. When it's warm, it's beautiful.
I'll be at this exact same location in a nice warm house at Wrestlemania that is rumored to have 25,000 fans this year. People who are going to be out there, not probably in the cold in Tampa in April, but it's rumored right now that Wrestlemania, April, I want to say 8th.
Sure. Something like that.
Is rumored to have 25,000 fans each night. So I don't know if they're gonna have different fans each day, have the same fans.
They're just gonna have it to where whoever you just buy tickets and that's it. I really think that's the plan.
April 11th or 4th, something like that. Whatever.
Yeah, it's one of the Sundays.
Yeah. But I think that's a lot, because you've been seeing the football stadiums recently that only have 6,000 here and
So Raymond James capacity is 65,000, give or take.
Yeah.
So that's just about a third, a little over a third. So with the Super Bowl, I don't think that we've announced the Super Bowl said 22,000 they said?
Something like that.
And with the Super Bowl, 7,500 of which are, frontline workers who are vaccinated and they get to go for free, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You assume they're going to follow the same seating arrangement for, say, how the Super Bowl is having 22,000, in the stands, but the additional 3 they're getting for Mania will probably then be on the floor around the ring area.
It makes sense. If they could pull it off, that's great. As long as it's safe, and I guess you have to have that plastic barricade around the ring again.
Yeah, I'd put the plexiglass up and keep people 50 feet away, maybe. I wouldn't have them right up against it.
No, they probably will, though, knowing how they operate that stuff. But hey, we're getting to WrestleMania in Tampa. We got screwed out of it last year. Hopefully they probably should use the same set they had in mind for
they're not gonna make a whole brand new one, considering they didn't use it at all.
No.
As long as the pirate ship is a part of it, I'm okay.
That's what you want. You love your little details. It's either that one, you love your pumpkin from Halloween Havoc.
It's the minute stuff that makes it come together and makes it fun. Yeah, exactly. When they were in Orlando, when they had basically it wasn't a real roller coaster, but it was a makeshift roller coaster, for Disney World. And when they were in New York, New Jersey the first time, how they had the skyline, the Statue of Liberty, and all that stuff.
I love that set.
It's just what makes it, what it should be, which is encompassing the city and everything involved in it. When you got the boring, WrestleMania 23 was just a big screen, or now what it is, it's literally just a giant digital board for some of them. It's
how'd you feel about that? The WrestleMania 35 here back in New Jersey,
it was just boring, right.
It was, right?
Yeah, it looks like a concert stage at that point, which is just okay, which is with concerts though, you have all visuals and it shows everyone up on the band up on the screen so you can see it if you can't actually see it. But for them, when the match is on, they just put either nothing or
WrestleMania.
Yeah, just the logo on the thing and that's it.
Yeah.
So I hope there's some personality to it.
No, I agree. As your lights flicker over there,
someone hit a switch.
It kind of looked like the Undertaker was coming into your room for a second, but the rumors are that Undertaker will not be a part of WrestleMania this year, but as one source, I think it was Wrestling Features or one of the Wrestle Votes said on Twitter or something, he's only one convincing phone call away from showing up at WrestleMania. How do you feel about Undertaker possibly showing up?
He's got to milk the retirement for at least a year. Let's, if we're being honest. But with the names that they seem like they're pulling out, it seems like, Goldberg, we knew was going to be there. Now it sounds like Cena might be coming back. Yeah. So I don't necessarily think they need him for 2 nights, potentially, but he's going to be back. He's not going to be retired for that long. And honestly, he's going to want to come back because he can have fans then. Boneyard was great, but it's like it was a pre-record. No one really was there. He's going to want to be in front of people.
Yeah, I think he's going to want to have that final farewell in front of, fans and stuff. Because the farewell he did at Survivor Series was very lackluster, and it was not that good. It wasn't a tribute fitting of the guy, who he was, what he did in the ring and all that. We talked about that months ago, though.
God, and then there's the painful, I forgot if it was after Mania or if after Survivor Series, when they had people like in the Performance Center, and it was them all cheering like the thank you Taker. When it was that was after Boneyard, I think. No, not even Boneyard. That was after the Last Ride debuted. That was like the next day.
Yeah, it was around when Last Ride debuted.
Yeah, that. Yeah, it was just like really. That just seems it's so forced.
Just keep Undertaker on his ranch in Texas until we can have full capacity, and however many years from now, have him do his retirement then. Call it a career. I think that's the best way.
And let's not use him till COVID's bye-bye because he's old.
He's very old, and I think his wife has COVID. What I saw, Michelle McCool came down.
Yeah, keep him away from public.
I agree.
And people.
But when talking about the Undertaker right now, you also mentioned that Goldberg and most likely Cena is a lock for WrestleMania, and that was one of the rumors going around as well, that they are locks for WrestleMania. Goldberg, we kind of know what he's doing. It looks like he's going to be in the WWE title picture in one way or another, whether he's winning at the Rumble, winning the Rumble, or just having another rematch with Drew or something, or he switches over to the blue brand. You never know what he's going to do. That almost is a lock there of what he's doing. But John Cena is very, very interesting because we haven't seen him besides the recent WrestleMania promo for the one in Hollywood since Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah, we got deleted off of existence, basically.
So my question to you is, what the hell is John Cena going to be doing at this year's WrestleMania?
I don't see anything. And we saw too where I think it was The Rock or it was one of them saying they're going to put that match on hold till Hollywood. I forgot who said it. I think it was Roman with Ryan Satin or something, where he's Hollywood's biggest draw, WWE's biggest draw. He's it just makes sense to do it, in Hollywood now, with Hollywood being pushed back from this year to 2 years, essentially. It's so we're not getting that for a while now.
Yeah, we're not getting that anytime soon. I'll give you a little bit of time to think while I say my Cena predictions for the moment. It's always been rumored since Samoa Joe came into the company that it would be Samoa Joe and Cena one day in the ring. Samoa Joe's been on commentary. I'm pretty sure he's cleared to come back. If we see both of them in the Rumble, Joe eliminates Cena, I can see that being a little one-off match to have at WrestleMania. I can see Cena going against Reigns at WrestleMania, Cena winning the Rumble, possibly winning number 17 at WrestleMania. You never know. That's a possibility. I could see something, they're bringing back the Fiend story from last year, that now Cena might be under the Fiend's possession too, or Cena is teaming with the Fiend, or maybe a rematch with the Fiend in an actual wrestling match this time if the Randy Orton and Edge thing goes through.
I kind of like, because how Orton, it's not like he's trying to break Alexa Bliss's her control from the Fiend, but it would be kind of cool to just see the Fiend get his own little army of wrestlers that he encountered, right? And a kind of not the Wyatt family type, but the Fiend friends. I don't know.
Friends.
Yeah.
Firefly Funhouse.
It'd be cool if the WrestleMania match was Orton Fiend, but with Bliss there, Cena as spandex Cena, which is getting an action figure now, and maybe Braun comes back as Goat Braun or Sheep Braun or whatever.
That'd be funny.
And it's Orton's trying to take out all of them to eventually get to the Fiend. That'd be cool if Cena's incorporated somehow that way. But Cena coming back and winning the Rumble, I just don't want to see that. I really don't.
I like Cena.
No, I do too, but it's
yeah.
I just don't need it.
I agree. He's won it twice. It does nothing for anybody in that way. You can just put him in a title match if you want to really have him in a title match at Mania. But I like a little wacky idea of having the Fiend team up with Cena against Orton and maybe someone if the Edge things falls through and all that. Maybe Cena and the Fiend versus Orton and Triple H, because we saw, the Triple H and Sledgehammer be set on fire.
Yeah, and he wasn't really too sure of how that one happened.
Yeah, so maybe a little Evolution get together, have Rick or Batista come out with them and build that up too, and then
just feel like this year, at least they shouldn't put Cena in a title match. At least for me.
I agree. No, part-timers like that shouldn't be in title matches. I agree.
Just the way like how he got taken off with like Firefly, it's like, okay, work something with that somehow. Rather than just, he's back here, go for number 17. You're done. Bye-bye. Like, that's our plan. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing organic from that, because at that point, you're just completely retconning Firefly. It's like, then what was the point of the whole thing at that point?
Jesse would probably still love the Firefly even after all that.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't like the idea of having part-timers hold the titles. Brock, Goldberg, Triple H, when he won it back in 2016. Even Cena, even though he got to 16, that was pretty cool. He was kind of starting to get on his way out when he beat AJ, and he lost it a month later, but I don't know. It's iffy. It's getting very exciting though. We're almost on the road to WrestleMania. And one last little tidbit of outside the ring news is that it's been rumored. I know you sent me something on Instagram and I saw another tweet about it, that Alister Black is being rumored for big plans. He got drafted to SmackDown when they had the draft a little while ago. Before that, he wasn't really doing anything. He had his gimmick change with his eye patch thing. He had a new theme song, which I didn't like because I loved his old theme song. And he was basically just sitting and catering ever since his wife got fired from the company, Zelina Vega, and he hasn't really been doing anything. But apparently there's big plans to bring him back, and I hope that's true. I don't know if I believe it yet, because we know the history of NXT talent with WWE and what they don't know what to do with them. But what do you think about this going forward?
I think the only quote big plans is either he wins the Rumble or wins the Chamber match, and he's in a title, or their big plans is him winning like the Intercontinental or US. And it's a mid-card
turn of events that would be.
But that would be the only big plans I could think of.
Unless he joins the Fiend stable we've been talking about too.
As like a Dark Order kind of crew.
Could be.
Like their version of it. Because we kind of see that where it's like if there's one company that has one stable, they kind of do a counter stable, and the other one is not a shot, but a subtle, like let's just kind of go at it and see who's better. So maybe?
The companies are very similar. Like the AEW has Private Party. We have the Street Profits. They're basically the same thing. They're guys who like to party. They're guys that like to have fun. They're athletic tag teams, just like that. They're very similar both ways. I hope he wins the Rumble. That'd be cool. I feel like there's a lot of dark horses to win the Rumble, which we'll be talking about on next week's episode. I think we're just going to dedicate that whole episode just to the Rumble, because it's one of my favorite.
You can go in depth with so much.
It's so much stuff, because you have the men's, you have the women's, you have title matches, you have a bunch of other stuff. So I think it'll be just a Rumble episode next week, just breaking down every little tidbit we could and try to predict our winners and dark horses next week. But that's next week, and that was outside the ring news. So we're gonna now jump inside the ring to a fairly decent week of WWE wrestling this week. Not the most newsworthy week. There were a couple weird things that happened on Raw. NXT was great, and SmackDown has been phenomenal. Like, the week gets better as it goes on, I feel.
It's been like that for forever.
For months now. But we have to start with Raw always, and Raw opened up with Randy Orton in a backstage promo with his little fire-preventing Lucha Libre, Nacho Libre, red Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer nose, burnt face looking. And he cut a really good promo, but I thought this looked really silly. A lot of people liked it on the internet, and that's actually a shock that people liked it, but I thought it was very silly and it didn't look realistic to me. And
yeah, like I understand they're trying to cover up like the burns and everything for him, but like the mask is really just so they don't have to do as much makeup, right? If we're being honest. And the makeup in certain frames and stills and whatnot, it either looks okay or it looks really bad and comical, where his nose is like bright red,
it's like
where
melting.
It's not like it's burnt. It looks like he just went outside in the cold, and he's like a stuffy nose. But it's like, I would have rather them, just wrapped his head in bandages or something rather than
like a mummy.
Yeah, rather than a mask, because at least then you could just cover everything. You don't have to worry about any makeup.
It just looked silly, like the colors of the mask, like that. It just looked silly. Like, I don't know. 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 It that yellow white with the red, like it literally looked like a luchador mask. Like it didn't look like, I don't know what like a safety mask like that really looks like, honestly. Maybe got like a Jason mask or something.
Like someone's like Slipknot almost, but it's
almost.
Like,
but then he'll look like he's in Retribution if he wears something like that. So there's
that's why they should just done bandages, because that's what
bandages. I agree.
Burn victims generally have wrapped up is gauze and like a heavy amount of bandages.
Like you shouldn't only see like one eye or over his eyes, and that's it. Like
yeah. I understand. Cool. Like I understand what they're trying to do, but it just looked lackluster.
Yes, it wasn't realistic to me. And I know wrestling isn't supposed to be like this realistic thing. Hell, the Undertaker exists, and he's supposed to be this dead guy.
But if they're trying to go for someone who just got his face burnt off, why would you just have his nose exposed? Because the whole point of being covered in bandages after being burnt is you want to limit the exposure to possible infection. So having your nose literally sticking out is counterintuitive to that.
I agree, but I liked that they're prolonging the storyline. A lot more happened with this story later in the show. We'll get to that, but that does it for the beginning of the show. I'm just gonna go through quick points of the show that don't need any talking about. But if you want to interrupt me and talk about something, go ahead. Charlotte Flair defeated Peyton Royce. Mace defeated Xavier Woods. Shayna Baszler defeated Mandy Rose. Great match here. AJ Styles defeated Ricochet. I'm glad Ricochet's getting a chance to show his skills. And that's like the matches during the week. Didn't really tickle any balls there.
Yeah, the other shows, NXT and SmackDown, had so many more better matches.
I agree, even though AJ, like I can count at least on like each show like one really good wrestling match, and that's kind of cool in a way. Like AJ and Ricochet was cool. We'll get to Cesaro and Ziggler on SmackDown, and there was a couple good on NXT, like the Fight Pit as well. But we'll get to that. But now we have to talk about this. The Dirt Sheet, which advertised Drew McIntyre and Goldberg to be on the show. Drew obviously had COVID recently, but I think he doesn't have it anymore. So he is negative for COVID and will be on the show next week. And the match is still on for next Sunday against Goldberg. So that's fun.
It hasn't that lucked out for him.
It did, because Goldberg was almost a lock to win the Rumble then or something at that point. But
they'd do something with him that would make the whole situation a lot worse. Yeah. Not worse in, obviously Drew having COVID is terrible, but worse as in, oh God, Goldberg might win a belt or be in a position to win it a lot easier.
I still think he has a very good shot, but we'll get to that next week. A lot of teasing next week, so hopefully next week is good for us. But the Dirt Sheet, Goldberg and Drew McIntyre. Then all of a sudden, Goldberg's music hits, and then you see the guys come out with the sparklers and all that stuff.
And then the fire extinguisher, and you instantly
and you know what that is.
See, I kind of had a feeling with when they tease Goldberg, I'm like, there's no way they're having Goldberg on Raw. That's not the go home show for Rumble. So I'm like, okay. And it's like, it's the Dirt Sheet. It's like, okay, I know where this is going. And it went exactly where I thought it was going, and that's Gilbert.
Yeah, it was Gilbert, and then like, oh, okay, Gilbert. All right, we've seen this with the Festival of Friendship when Gilbert came out. It's funny, a little joke, ha ha ha. And then Drew McIntyre's music hits, and then this, I don't even know how to explain who comes out.
Guy from New Jersey.
Okay, he's from New Jersey. That's right. They did say he's from New Jersey. This guy who looks like he could be like an extra in The Sopranos just comes out with his wig on, with his beer belly on from all those Michelob Ultras he's been drinking.
Yeah, isn't that just everyone from New Jersey? Just possibly anyone could be an extra in The Sopranos.
My beer belly has gotten bigger from quarantine, so I can relate to this guy. Yeah. This guy comes down to the ring and he puts like a little tiny sword in the ring, like Drew puts
a little dagger. Yeah.
Yeah. He walks down to the ring, talks in a horrible Scottish accent, and it
was just brutal.
It was cringe, but it was funny. I kind of enjoyed this. Miz saying he's going to cash in at the Rumble was basically the whole point of this thing, saying he's going to walk out WWE champion, yada, yada, yada. What are you feeling? What are you feeling about this? It's funny to me.
It's funny, but boy, if they, showed their hand and that the plan is literally to have Miz cash in at Rumble. Oh boy. Or if he comes in and tries to, there's no shot he's winning the belt at that point.
I hope Gilbert and Fat Drew come and help Miz win the title or something like that. But
I think honestly the cash in it's near at this point.
and it has to be successful, because 1, they gave it to the Miz from Otis. 2, the Miz lost it and they gave it back to him again. Yeah, there has to be some plan. There has to be, right?
Or
not.
Maybe the gag is going to be every time he cashes in, he loses, but he finds a loophole and gets the case back.
Will he eventually cash it in?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
Because the whole Morrison thing, how Morrison essentially cashed in for him, was the reason of why, it got called back. It's like they could run with that for a while. Or what they could do is have Morrison maybe cash in again for him, but him win it, and they're like, same thing, belt's coming back, redo. And then give him the case off of that. I don't know. But
I don't know.
They got to
complicated.
I think he's cashing in anytime between now and Mania.
That's fun. That's exciting. You never know. Miz might be in the title match at Mania holding the title.
Fastlane or whatever the boring pay-per-view in between no one cares about is.
Yeah. Fastlane, because the Chambers one, I think they added Fastlane again. Okay. Other matches that happened tonight: Hurt Business defeated Riddle and the Lucha House Party in a 6-man tag. Cool. Little tension still going on there. Nothing to talk about. Jeff Hardy defeated Jackson Riker by disqualification because Elias got involved. That's a team. Whatever. Yeah,
the bearded
but
boys.
then this is it doesn't no talking points. Just want to get that out there. But the biggest talking point of the night now is Alexa Bliss versus Asuka in a match. Alexa Bliss's first match since being allegedly burned alive or whatever that Randy Orton did that when the cameras cut off of Raw on the end of one of those Raws. It starts off as a normal wrestling match, and then it kind of gets a little twisty. Like the lights change to like this purplish pinkish color. Alexa gets rid of all the pink on her attire. She has all black on. She has this black lipstick on, and it starts smearing all over her face. And she kind of looks like she got a little bit of the fiend in her there. It's kind of we're seeing this fiendish Alexa Bliss, this possessed side of Alexa that we've kind of been waiting to see in a wrestling match, and we finally saw it against Asuka, not Asuka. And she destroyed Asuka. A lot of people weren't happy about her destroying the Raw Women's Champion, but I honestly loved it.
This is where we're going to see Alexa Bliss get the women's title as like the Fiend Bliss, basically, because they showed her where basically when she goes from pink to black attire-wise, that's the equivalent of going from, Funhouse Bray to the Fiend.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. It's a clear character change. And when she was just selling things, or she'd take a hit and she'd get staggered, but she'd recover quick. And she surprised. And Asuka she wasn't having fun. And Asuka knew something was up. So I think at that point, they made it where Bliss can be, a challenger and kind of the unstoppable force-esque of what the Fiend is when he's the Fiend.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. This leads to eventually Alexa holding the women's title, and most likely Bray holding the WWE title. I think having both of them as the power duo on Raw would be great. And then right after the match, once Alexa won, camera zooms in on her face. They do a jump cut. All of a sudden, it's back to the pink. Her lipstick's not black and smeared anymore. Back to normal.
It's like it was edited.
So
every time this wasn't live?
It looks like a VPE project right there. I wish they wish William Patterson
the
VPE project looked like that. But she said, "Let me in." Cameras cut the black. The end of Raw. It was fun. It was different.
No, I like it.
Didn't like it just because Asuka, they said again, was buried.
And this kind of extends the powers of the Fiend, right? Where it's not just he reverts you back to something else and you become obsessed with him, and it's like you're his crony and does his bidding, right? It's where you kind of get some Fiend powers also from it. So maybe do you think we see people maybe eventually joining in like the cult of the Fiend almost, because of how it kind of turns them into little powerhouses?
I do see a little cult coming on, like we said earlier in the show with the whole Orton thing and the whole Cena thing and all that, like kind of like you said, like a Wyatt family in a way. Like he has his, I don't see many people getting added, maybe one or two at max, maybe like a tag team so they can get all the titles, maybe another one just for a mid-card title, sort of like how the Hurt Business is collecting all the titles right now. But whatever they do with this, the Fiend is still one of the most entertaining things, and he hasn't even been on television.
Well, that's the thing. This gives another layer of like Alexa Bliss can carry this without even seeing the Fiend, because just seeing her kind of transform, it shows his presence is still there.
Yeah, no, you're right. Presence is there. Because you can hear his laugh, you can hear his voice. Let me in. He doesn't have to be on TV. He might have a comeback at the Rumble, which again we'll be talking about.
I think he comes back and wins it. Honestly.
Ooh, okay, Justin tickling under the balls a little bit there, and that's interesting. I like that theory.
I still want the 3 phases of Bray in the freaking thing.
That'd be hilarious.
Where it just do like 1, 15, and 30.
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
That would
and then
be really
30 being
Orton eliminates them all.
I mean, that would be good. That would be good.
It'd be interesting. Alexa has a chance to win the Women's Rumble too, but that's next week. We have to deliver next week's show. We really have to deliver on it. We're teasing it heavy. But that was Raw. Like I said, not a bad episode. Let's jump into NXT Wednesday nights, the best night of the week for wrestling. And just like the other matches on Raw, I'll get through the Dusty Cup. A couple talking points here, but I'll just go through the matches first. Of the results, the men's tournament continued and the women's tournament just started. Women's tournament's only half the size of the men's, which I feel like they could have done a little bit more because there are a lot of women in NXT, and they actually brought some women in from like Evolve and another one they signed from AEW and some other stuff to be in this tournament. But let's just get to the matches.
I think they're also just kind of, obviously they could have a full-sized Dusty Classic for the women. Like it could happen, but I think, since it is the first one, they're taking it slow just to gauge interest in it, I think, almost.
I think they should have waited for the women's and done it around like September, November.
What they should have done was and then tag and have the championship be at Evolve 2, but Evolution 2. But that's never going to happen again.
That's never going to happen. Yeah,
that would have been the perfect way to cap it off. Just saying.
I agree, but I of course I love the Dusty Cup. It's one of my favorite things, but I don't like 2 tournaments happening at the same time like this. It's just
they should have staggered it.
Yeah. But yeah, they should have. The results: Leon Ruff and Kushida upset Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory in the match. In their match that opened the show. Lucha House Party, another upset, beat Imperium, and the third upset of the night. Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter defeated Toni Storm and Mercedes Martinez. Are there any points you want to take away from this?
The only one I had the problem with is Imperium maybe losing, but obviously at the end we saw Alexander Wolf. He's over stateside now, so it kind of seemed like the Imperium boys weren't too thrilled to see him after a loss, because maybe they kind of know their asses are gonna get chewed out maybe now.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. They're to get a little chopping session from Walter.
Since they lost, and then it's like, well, you lost, and look who's here to see you lose in person now. So you kind of got to face the music, and you lost to the Lucha House Party of all teams, who were a joke.
Yeah, that was a crazy result. Gargano and Theory, who were one of my favorites to win the whole thing.
But I kind of like that with Ruff getting over on Gargano again.
It's funny. Funny.
Like it's just gonna be like that's gonna be his bane of his existence, is Leon Ruff of all people. But also with like Casey Catanzaro and Carter winning, it's like WWE's they've had it to where they wanted to push Casey Catanzaro to the moon since they've signed her. Like she's been like their favorite subtly for a long time, if we're being honest. Because when they had them pose as fake fans, they cut to those two easily 8-9 times an episode of like Raw and SmackDown, and it's like you just see that it's just I think they're gonna I don't think they're gonna win it all, but they're gonna go pretty far.
They'll go far. Well, they're already in like the quarterfinals or whatever.
They're in the semis already.
Semis, yeah, Jesus. Yeah. Semis, you're right. But that's cool. Casey Catanzaro did a crazy flip. I can't even describe what she did, but it was nonsense. They look good. They're good friends.
Just to land back on back.
Yeah, literally. But they're good friends, Kaden Carter and Casey. I think they live together too, so that's cool. It's good to see new people succeed. Toni Storm, Mercedes Martinez is a makeshift team, so they didn't need to win, so I'm fine with that. And then we ended NXT with the Fight Pit. A lot of people love the Fight Pit. A lot of people thought it was really, really good. I thought it was kind of boring.
Yeah, not much happened. Like, if I'm being quite honest, like Thatcher ended up winning like in a submission hold. Like
it's his match. That's his match now.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's 2-0. It's his match now. But like the way he won it, like in the corner, is like holding on to the cage. At first, I thought it kind of looked like it was like Ciampa getting the offense, and then they're like Thatcher wins. I'm like, wait, what was I just looking at? And it was just like, okay.
Yeah, it was okay. It's a Thatcher match. It's what are you gonna do?
Like, Ciampa looked old.
It's because he hasn't shaved his head in a while.
That's the thing. Like the gray really came in. He looks old in this.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I don't think there's much to talk about with the fight pit, but I wanted to talk about NXT a little bit because NXT is getting a little old for me. I feel like it's like
same
you brought
thing.
Up Ciampa, like he's starting to look old. He's been there. His prime of his run was 2017. It was 2018. It's 2021.
You know what the issue is? It's not that they're not calling people up and replacing them with like people in like the performance center and like in the feeder system to eventually get to NXT. It's like other than when Charlotte came back and the initial people came back, you know, like Finn coming back, and when Charlotte came back for the brief time when she won the NXT Women's title from Rhea at Mania, no one from Maine of significance has come back or, you know, gone down there for their first time to spice things up or really, you know, shake it up like we thought they were going to when, you know, we're like, oh, they're on USA now. They're going to be treated more as like a third brand rather than developmental. And it's kind of gone back to just being developmental, even though, you know, I think it was Adam Cole who said it a few days ago. It's like NXT is main roster. It's like, but is it? Is it really?
That's a really good point you made there. I like that point a lot. That not a lot of stars are coming down. But the point that I want to make about NXT is that they're snatching, like Vince and the main roster are snatching the talent that can have a long career in NXT, and they're keeping down the talent that are ready to come up. That's the problem.
Yes.
Like it's the same old stuff. The Undisputed Era, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, even Balor now for the last year and a couple months have been down there. It's like the same stuff. But then you get guys that they're just calling up, like who had the run of his life, who had so much more to do. Keith Lee down in NXT. He had so much more to do down in NXT, and they snatched him. Alister Black and Ricochet were just like basically in the middle of their getting hot. They called them right up. The Viking Raiders, they called right up. Apollo Crews got called up in a couple months. He could have had a lengthy run at NXT. Like those guys who weren't ready yet, like those undercard guys who didn't have like their long NXT title runs and all that stuff, they should have stayed down. And Vince called them up too quick, and it would have helped with like the depth of the roster instead of relying on the same 4 to 5 people.
Because week. Now it's literally just the Gargano, Ciampa, Undisputed Era, and now Finn. And like it's like, yeah, Pete Dunne's here, but it's like, how long are you gonna run Finn and Dunne for? And then it's like, okay, but Karrion Kross is back, so eventually he's going to get his title back. It's like, so that's going to happen. And there's really just no options to go anywhere with. Like, it's kind of very just concrete. Like, okay, they're going from here to here to here, and let's just see how it goes.
Yeah. No, I agree. They have to do something about that soon. Ciampa might get called up to the Rumble. Who knows? I know he doesn't want to, but he might even be a special guest. That would be fun. Well, let's get into SmackDown and then wrap this podcast up. We saw over the last couple of weeks, Nakamura was building some momentum going into the Royal Rumble, and then he got attacked by Roman and hasn't been seen since then. Another superstar that's been building a lot of momentum lately is Cesaro. He got a big win over Daniel Bryan last week, and then this week on SmackDown, he got a win over one half of the tag team champions and Dolph Ziggler. So I just want to get your opinion to think if Cesaro is going to be a dark horse winner to possibly win the Rumble or to get a title shot down the line at Roman.
They're definitely building him to where he should have been built 2 years ago, if we're being quite honest. I think he'll look strong in the Rumble, and I want to say, like, you know, the total, what I think is going to happen to him in the Rumble, but I think he'll have a stronger performance in the Rumble to where fans will get behind and be loud enough for him to finally get a push.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what's going to happen. I don't think he'll win it, but maybe a top 10 to final 4 kind of run.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll be like an Iron Man almost in the match going forward. That's fun though. I like that. So that's Cesaro right now. Cesaro, Nakamura, they're building those guys up. Daniel Bryan's been getting built up too pretty well to win the Rumble. So all that's coming. And then we saw on SmackDown Sasha versus Reginald. You might be like, who the hell is Reginald? That is Carmella's sommelier who holds the champagne, and he is a trained wrestler. He is in NXT. I didn't know that going into any of this, but I guess I should have done my research last night. But he is a trained wrestler. It was fun. Sasha made him tap out. It was a cool little thing. I think we were getting Sasha versus Carmella for the title at the Rumble, so that's fun.
I think it's only a matter of time till Carmella wins the belt at this rate. But I hope Sasha at least carries it to Mania.
Yeah, Sasha versus Bayley, Sasha versus Bianca at Mania.
I think what this does, at least, Carmella's not going to win the Rumble, the female Rumble, though. I think they're going to keep this going past Rumble.
Probably another month or so. But it's just something to talk about there, nothing really. But then we also had more women's action in the Ultimate Athlete Obstacle Course Challenge, and I was not looking forward to this coming into SmackDown, but seeing the
segments like this,
yes,
always fall flat.
Of course, but I thought this one was really good. I really did.
It was entertaining. It was one of the better ones.
It was, because Bayley took her sweet time doing the obstacle course with the little hurdles and running around the barricade.
She had the agility ladder type things, while Belair had legitimate track hurdles.
Exactly. Bayley rigged that. She made those smaller. She ran around the big wooden blocks. She deadlifted Chad Gable, and then she missed a basket and then did a layup. And then it was Bianca's turn. Then Bianca flipped the tire, went down, and then Bayley changed it, and she rigged the competition to the big, like you said, the track hurdles. Bianca climbed over the wooden things without even using the ropes or anything. And then it came to the fireman's carry thing, and she didn't have Chad Gable like Bayley had. She had Otis. So she lifted up Otis. She fireman carried Otis for about the length of the ring, which is about 20 feet.
The funny thing with the fireman carry, because when I was back in Boy Scouts way back when, the fireman carry is supposed to be where someone who's 90 pounds could carry someone that's 200 pounds. No, you still got to be strong, baby, to throw someone over your shoulders and carry him. So the fact that she was able to carry Otis is impressive. Yes. Obviously, they obviously tried that beforehand,
Of course.
But it's just to see, it's oh, damn.
It was impressive.
That's a
even
beefy boy.
when I used to do in the wrestling, when I used to do wrestling in middle school and all that stuff, they said that's the best way to get your opponent off the ground. If he's on top of you, just do the fireman's carry, and basically it's the easiest way to lift any opponent, like you learned from Boy Scouts. But I don't see myself lifting up Otis with that. That I'm pulling something in my back, or
every vertebrae in my lower spine is compressing in on itself.
So that's so impressive that Bianca carried Otis for 20 feet just like that, and then did a slam dunk and beat Bayley. Bayley attacked her after, but I really enjoyed that segment. And then the last little segment of the night, it was advertised earlier in the show that Adam Pearce would be going one-on-one with Paul Heyman. So Pearce is in the ring when they cut back from commercial. Heyman comes down the ring. He's wrapping up his hands with the tape. He goes to go up the stairs, and he falls off the stairs. And it looks like he tweaked his knee or something. So he tries to go back off, and he falls off again. The camera cuts in on Heyman, and he said, card subject to change. The same thing Pearce said to them last week when Owens replaced him in the match for the Rumble. Down comes Roman, who just beats the crap out of Pearce basically throughout the whole arena. And out comes my boy Kevin Owens.
But it's Roman, now you're just injuring Adam Pearce, making it all more that it's going to happen, that it's going to be Kevin Owens at that point.
Yeah, he basically instigated this whole thing to happen. It's kind of stupid of Roman. What you going to do? Owens comes out, who was banned from the arena by the orders of Heyman or something. Owens comes in, attacks Roman, same old stuff, stunner. It was a cool Superman punch into a stunner. I enjoyed that. Then Owens puts Roman through a table, and just building towards the match. I thought it ended really good though.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see how the last man stand match is obviously going to be. But the last show for the go home show, SmackDown, is going to be, because they're going to want to rip each other apart on that show. I think it's going to be cool.
It's going to be good. I think Roman gets the upper hand on the last show just because Owens got the upper hand here. We'll get to predictions next week, but I'll probably get to think up of a crazy theory of how Owens is going to win. I'll try to at least. I don't know what I got this time.
I have a good feeling about it, honestly.
Do you really?
I think so.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. we'll get into next week. But
you also picked the Buccaneers to win, so I don't know if I trust your predictions or not.
When I'm right, and if it happens, oh boy, I'll look fantastic.
I can take it. That's fine. I'm dishing it out on you. I'll be able to take it. But yeah, no, I picked the Packers. You picked the Buccaneers. I just don't think the Buccaneers. That's another podcast. I don't think the Buccaneers.
Watch that if you haven't already.
Yeah, watch that. Go ahead. That's up right now.
It's up already right now.
Yeah, but that does it for this week in wrestling. Not a bad week.
No, good. The build for Rumble is going relatively well.
Yeah, I think it is going
for the most part on the SmackDown side of things.
It's hard to build to the Rumble because the whole Rumble match and declaring for all that stuff, and you're trying to fit in a couple championship matches here or there. But they're doing good. We have go home shows next week, so that's going to be fun watching what they do with those. Rumble go home shows are usually pretty good. You know, Raw's going to end with Goldberg and McIntyre. SmackDown's probably going to end with Roman and Owens. So that's fun. But that does it for this episode of the Sports Department Podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Jesse couldn't be here with us today because I think he's helping some family. Or
I don't even know what he's doing anymore.
I think he's babysitting. I think he said or something.
Babysitting or house sitting or something.
He's
a busy man down on the farm. Yeah,
he's on the farm. Yeah, he's on the farm with the horses and the cows and all that stuff.
And the cats.
Maybe he's babysitting them, the cows and stuff.
Yeah.
So Jesse's that. Joe and Steve also appreciate you guys listening to us. Make sure you guys are subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can find us there. You can find us wherever you find your podcast on any of the other sites. Make sure you guys are following our social medias on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Sports Dept Pod. That's Sports DEPT Pod. Like Justin, Joe, we just mentioned our predictions for the division, the championship round is out now. We're going to break down those games upcoming really soon. I don't see many other podcasts coming because basketball's been slow. We just did a baseball one.
Maybe a hockey.
Maybe a hockey.
Maybe a basketball, just to kind of talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll touch on some NFL stuff, maybe kind of news and stuff we haven't talked about just because we've been focusing on playoffs. So we'll figure some stuff out. But we got plenty of stuff coming down the pipe for sure.
Of course, and we're not going to probably do a Pro Bowl episode because that's a Madden game and that's stupid. Although we're going to break down the Pro Bowl maybe or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But that's coming. Royal Rumble predictions coming next week. So stay tuned to all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next episode.